No, I said efficient. We're efficient, especially our admin staff. There you go.
Uh, Thank you all for coming back, returning, and we'll thank all of our public that left us for lunch and are back to join us. Thank you. We will proceed with the rest of our meeting. So we'll begin from we'll continue from 6.4 for the Lacombe replacement school signage. Mr. Bouchard and Mr. Latka, over to you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is more of a FYI for trustees. I've already spoken with Donna as the local trustee, but in essence, the new build, we had to let them know the name that was to go on that school. And so basically it's status quo. So we're using the same name. I know there was talk last year, especially when the graves were discovered in Kamloops. There was one member of the community that said, you should change the name of that school. So the board directed the policy committee and administration to look at a policy that talks about naming. Right now, it's an administrative procedure. I'm not sure why it's there, because in board policy, the board names facilities. What's in procedure is it talks about how a committee is structured. So anyways, long story short, I've drafted a policy for policy committee to review, but really the policy should be in board policy around naming, including, any kind of renaming process. So we'll talk about that at policy committee, but I'm just letting you know that we had to submit the name to the builders, to the architects, and we just went with status quo. So it's a heads up on that. If we ever want to change it, we'll have to pay to have it changed, even though the building's not up. Any questions on that?
Any question? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bouchard. I know in the summer when everything was unfolding, certain names came to our attention to look at. So what I can advise is that as a new board, we'll proceed to review some of all of that and see what needs to change and how we can align things. So, and I'm glad that work is moving back to policy so we can look at everything and align it. So if there are no questions, we will proceed to 6.5, Mr. Bouchard.
Mr. Chair, did Trustee Taylor-Sirwa have a question?
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I went to another page.
Thank you. What I was going to say is, if there's any possibility of us renaming or having to rename the school in Lacombe, wouldn't it be wiser to do it now? And plus, you said it would cost money in future if we do decide to name it.
Yeah, you're right. But as is right now, like we've been discussing, we have to be mindful as to how we change the names and how we write. So if we take a step back, put in the proper policies and mechanisms, then when we do change, because all of this will come to some good, you don't want to change a name and then in 20 years, there's issue with that name, then it's right. So we have to find a proper mechanism as to how do we move forward that is very solidified. You cannot say controversial free, but how do we move forward in the manner that it doesn't cost, because there are other names within the division that needs to be looked at as well, right? So a short answer is how do we move forward with a process that aligns very well? And again, in consultation with communities as we move forward to do all of this work again. Okay. Trustee Tagwood.
Yeah, I was just going to say it takes a lot of time to decide about renaming because you have to have a consultation with the community, the parish. You'd have to have a communication with the staff and students, and you'd have to look at all the different names that are in use throughout the province and throughout the country. And so it's a difficult, it takes a lot of time, and we don't have the time because they need the signage right now. So yeah, it is too bad. I said this before, that we could save some money, but it would just take too long.
I will also add to that, Trustee Tugwood, is that the board has to decide, like, first off, is there even reason to revisit it? Right. So when I spoke with the Archdiocese, there's a lot more information on Bishop Grandin and his involvement in residential schools than there is on Father Lacombe. Right. We know that from what we read and hear about Father Lacombe, he was actually very loved by the Indigenous people. So I'm not seeing a lot of documentation from the Archdiocese. So the board may say, you know what, we're not even revisiting this. That's an option too. So we just can't assume that the name's going to change. We have to kind of have that discussion as a board first.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do without a policy to direct us to start with.
To direct. Yes, exactly. So that's why I'm saying
Yeah.
backtracking. When we have a process in place and start looking at all of these names, what are the historical information that will guide some of the work forward? Should we or shouldn't we? But we need a mechanism to move it forward. Right.
And we need a lot of information on background. Just because he was principal of 2 residential schools, that was way back at the beginning, not when it was mandatory. And also he founded the first orphanage. He did so many other good things that we need to look at the whole picture.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right. Thank you, folks. So we will then, if there are no further questions, we'll proceed to 6.5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the package, there is a letter from October 27th from Alberta Health Services making a request of the Board of Trustees, which I bring forward to you today. In essence, what the request is Alberta Health realizes that Star Catholic has a policy on immunization that requires the consents for only the HPV vaccine to be sent to parents from Alberta Health and collected by Alberta Health. All other vaccinations in the school are distributed and collected by the school. So with the vaccination of children and the increased pressures on Alberta Health, they are asking if we could distribute the HPV forms at least for this year. And if not, and in addition, would the board revisit its policy on this and have some discussion about this? So the letter is there. In the package, there's also a backgrounder on the original policy. So why did Star Catholic go with this policy back in the day? And that's also included there for you as well. I will let you know, when I spoke with the superintendents from all the divisions that I've spoken to, nobody else does it this way. Star Catholic is the only Catholic division that kind of has this secondary process for HPV. They just treat all vaccinations the same. So I'd be happy to answer any questions kind of on the historical piece of this, but the request is there on behalf of Alberta Health, and I told them that I would get back to them after the board has reached a decision. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So looking at the historical context, are there any questions around that piece? Okay. I see no hands up. Then we'll go to the requests from Alberta Health. Any question or suggestion, discussions from anyone, how to deal with these requests? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if you can see Trustee Miller's hand.
Yeah, I can see her now. I'm going back and forth for my pages. Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I guess, a technical question. The potential motion that is on the vaccination policy development sheet in front of us, for some reason I can't find the a draft policy 21.
So Trustee Miller, that is the backgrounder from 2014.
That makes much more sense because there's no date. Well,
Right.
there is a date on the bottom, but yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's just kind of shows you, it's just the historical information that, in case trustees say like, why did the board do it? Or when did they make that policy? It was in 2014.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the request before us, and I believe you've all seen that, is an exemption for, okay, sorry. Trustee Tagwood, go ahead.
So I'm just not sure, are we looking at taking this to policy to direct a new policy for vaccination? Is that what we're looking at doing?
We will, but I'm looking at us looking at this request, and then do we have to revisit policy? So right now, I would like us to look at this request just in that window, and then revisit the policy if we have to. Yep.
So,
Thank you.
so you need a motion that the board follow through on this request? I'm probably not wording it right, but that's what you need right now?
Yes, so that is a discussion and a motion for the exemption for the year, and then we kick this back to policy to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr.
Okay,
Chair, if I could, I think the two numbered bullets on page 2 of the letter would actually be handled by the board in those two different ways. One is, you know, is there a willingness to have a policy exemption for the school year? And secondly, is there a willingness to review the policy by policy committee?
Yes. Yes, and that's the request there, wanting to deal with the exemption and then moving it back down if there is the will. Okay, so I don't see. Okay, I see Trustee Lena.
Yeah, so there's no motion made yet at the moment. The motion can either be moved to accept the exemption for the year or move to reject the exemption of the year for the year. And then a second motion would need it to be made to send it to policy for review, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
If I
Okay.
could, I also just give further to that. I think if the board's not interested, we wouldn't need a motion. You would just say, Superintendent Bouchard, please get back to Alberta Health and let them know we're not interested, right? But if you do want to have an exemption, then it would be a motion. And with the second one, the board could just direct administration and the policy committee to review that policy. It wouldn't need a formal motion.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not interested in that. Just
okay. So you're not interested in giving the exemption? I want us to deal with this one at a time, right?
Okay.
I really want us to deal with this with some context around. We've already seen the historical piece of it, but I want us again to look at this in the context of the pandemic as to the situation and why the need for this request, right? When I'm looking at all of this, it's in twofold. So let's look at the exemption piece, and then let's look at the other piece. So Mike, Trustee Leonard is made his view. Okay, Trustee Tagwood.
I would be interested in making a motion to accept the exemption as requested by Alberta Health Services. So I would like to make that motion, and then perhaps people could speak to that.
Okay, Mr. Bouchard, Mr. Latka, parliamentarian, do you want to please?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you put that in proper language?
I'll capture your thoughts and then put it on the screen for everybody to see. If you can give me a couple of seconds here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll mute myself so you don't hear loud typing.
Oh, okay. We'll give Mr. Laka about a minute to two to okay. So there's quite a history about this policy in 2014 there. While Mr. Laka is doing that, any other comments?
Mr. Chair, if I could ask Superintendent Bouchard to repeat what he said in regards to STAR requires no mailed out consent forms for any other vaccines. Was that correct?
Right. So
Whatever that statement was, please repeat it.
yeah. Okay. So for all other vaccines administered in the school, the office will distribute and collect the vaccination consents from parents. So no child is ever vaccinated for any kind of vaccine without parental consent. When it comes to HPV vaccinations, we do not distribute and collect from the office. We say to Alberta Health, you need to mail those to all families and collect them from all families. So it's the only vaccine that we do that with, HPV. Now, the second part that I mentioned was all other divisions that I've spoken to just distribute and collect them all from the office. And when I asked other superintendents about, like, okay, tell me more about that decision, they said the Catholic principle is that the parent is the primary decision maker regarding vaccines and HPV. They still have to consent or not consent to that. Why does it matter who sends and collects the form? That's what the other superintendents are telling me. In the end, the parent is still the person or persons making the decision. And I think that's the Catholic principle, is the parents are the primary decision maker regarding vaccines. I hope that helps.
I have a few more questions there from Trustee Taylor and Trustee Lanner.
Sorry, do you see a hand?
Yes, Trustee Taylor has her hand up, and so does Trustee Lanner.
Okay. Trustee Sarwat, please go ahead.
Thank you. For myself, I am not interested in having HPV consent forms collected at the school at all. I think if the parents are interested in having their child have this, that's their own doing outside of the school.
Just for clarification, Trustee Taylor, Sarah, they're vaccinated in the school.
I'm definitely saying no.
No, but I'm just telling you that they are vaccinated in the school right now. So
Yes.
it's strictly about how the forms are sent home and collected, because they are vaccinated in the school.
In the school. And like I said, this has a very long history in the 2014, how we ended up where we are. And there's a lot of historical information as well that came with it, including lawsuits, human rights activity suits, and all of that. So we'll leave that right now for the essence of time here. Yeah, Trustee Lena, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my point would be to the choice. Like, there still is the choice for parents. We as a Catholic institution are just trying to say, by not wanting to have it be sent from us, that we don't like. I understand that the vaccines are still distributed in our schools, and maybe there would be discussions around that. But at the moment, if we can, distance ourselves from even distributing consent forms, because we're not preventing parents from having the choice. We're just saying we don't want that choice to come from us with our name and a letterhead from us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So we have a motion here, put forward by Trustee Tagwood, that the board approve an exemption. So Trustee Tagwood, I'll have you read your motion, please.
Thank you. That the board approve an exemption to policy 21, vaccinations to Alberta Health Services for the 2021-2022 school year to allow HPV consents to be issued through division schools.
Okay. So that's the motion before us to deal with the request that is come our way. Okay. If there are any further discussions? Sorry, we didn't put a motion out before the discussions.
There's a couple of hands up,
Okay.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
I see Trustee Miller. We'll start from you.
Thank you. Can someone direct me under policy 21, what number states that Alberta Health Services or the division provides consent forms?
I don't.
Number 6 in policy 21.
Right. So this has been a very long standing operation between schools and health services, right? Because that's the area to capture students that are due for their immunization. So that partnership has been there until HPV that came in, and that's where we moved just the HPV off that standing instruction, for lack of proper language or word here. So Trustee Taylor Sarwa, go ahead.
Did I have my hand up?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I just didn't get it down. I'm sorry.
All right. Trustee Miller, do you have your hands up or you need to get it down? All right. Okay. Any other question? Okay. So if there are no questions, we have comments or discussion. We have a motion before us that the board approved as put forward by Trustee Tagwood. And I would like to call the question now so we can deal with it. Okay, so I'll call the question for the exemption for the year as the motion put forward. Okay, if I can see by hands, all in favor of the exemption as per the motion. Okay, you may have to bear with me 1 second here so I can move through my screen. 1, 2.
Henry, maybe you should get a verbal yes or no
3.
from each trustee.
I see 4. Okay, I see 4.
Maybe a verbal yes or no from each trustee would be better.
Will be better. Okay.
Be
So,
easier.
All right. Let me start from Trustee Tagwood.
Yes, I approve the motion.
Okay. Trustee DeMarco,
Yes, I approve the motion.
Trustee Miller,
Yay.
okay. Trustee Burke,
Yes, I approve it.
okay. Trustee Lerner,
No.
Trustee Serwa,
No.
okay.
And Mr. Chair, your vote?
Yeah, for myself, I would say yay. So this is now carried 5-2 to have the exemption for the year to help our better health services do this through the schools. Okay. Then on the second
Sorry, Mr.
issue,
Chair, I have a quick question.
sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. In regards to that process, I just want to ensure that that was not a recorded vote, that it is
No.
just a passed carried.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, yeah, the motion wasn't put forward to be recorded, so it's just so then that because we are all virtual, that's why I wanted to go it individually. Okay, thank you. So, like I said, there's a lot of historical situation that brought us to where we are. So as we've discussed, I would like us to reconsider putting this before policy to relook at the whole thing. And now again, as we speak, if we are following the news around the country, again, for COVID vaccinations, some districts around the country are moving forward to make it mandatory for children and all of that. Again, so this again is a good time to relook at this vaccination situation as we are beginning to move forward in that direction. Okay, any question, any comments before we move forward? Okay, if there isn't, Mr. Bouchard, we'll say let's revisit this in policy to go from there. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to 6.6, Central Office Christmas closure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
So just making trustees aware of the Christmas closure, and that's just in case trustees are trying to get a hold of office staff or need to come in. So the office is closed from the 24th to the 31st of December. Now on the 29th and 30th, employees may be working. The front doors are closed, but staff are encouraged to use time in lieu, those kind of things. The other days, the 24th, 27th, 28th, and 31st, those are days that are in lieu of Christmas because Christmas and Boxing Day fall on the weekend. So, and the 31st is in lieu of New Year's, but it's just making you aware. There's nothing else for you to do, but it's an awareness piece. Thank you.
All right. Any question or comment for Mr. Bouchard in that regard? Okay. I see no hands up. Yeah. Okay, we will move to 6.7, MLA meetings. Mr. Bouchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on the board's work plan for November, the board is to have a discussion about whether they want to meet with the MLAs. And then if the answer is yes, then an agenda would have to be made up and also a discussion about when to meet. Now we're fortunate in one sense that All MLAs that work with or associated with Star Catholic are from the UCP party. So typically what it is one meeting where they all attend. If we had NDP MLAs, we'd have 2 separate meetings. But in this case, we only need to have one if the board wishes to proceed. And you can decide when you might want to have that meeting and what you might want to talk about. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So like Mr. Bouchard stated, that part of our advocacy, and we've done this very smoothly over the years. And again, that's the way we get to know our MLAs just in our board office, so they can understand us as we understand them, and advocate for what we need and build that relationship. Looking at COVID right now, I don't know how that, but we'll start from the process. Are we willing to meet with our MLAs in the spring? And normally they've done it in the way as to administration follows up, everything gets planned, and then a common date and time is looked at, mostly in the evening when they are on their way from the ledge, and stop by, and then we meet before they continue into their constituencies. That's what we've normally done. So is there a desire to meet with them in the spring? Okay, I see some heads nodding. Okay, right. So if we are in that agreement.
Mr. Chair, there's a question from Donna Tugwood, Trustee Tugwood.
Oh, okay. Donna,
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to say that I think it's a good idea to meet with them, especially after the election, to meet with some of the new trustees so they can get an idea of everything that's going on, and certainly no sooner than the spring with all that's happening with COVID.
Yes. Thank you for that. So we want to, here's my advice or my caution will be, Mr. Bouchard, if we can proceed and then see if either in person or virtually, whichever comes due to the pandemic, then we'll take that one and proceed with the meeting. Okay, and then we'll look at the agenda as time comes near, please.
So, Mr. Chair, when I hear spring, is it safe to assume maybe March? Is that fair?
Yes, because by the time this coordination starts, December is a write-off, and by the time we go back and forth in January, February, we normally ends up.
And just to your point, we typically have had that meeting on a Thursday night when they are on their way, because I think Friday is their day off, as I recall. Is that correct? So
Yes.
We would do it on a Thursday night sometime in March. We'll find a date and then coordinate that and follow up at a subsequent meeting with an agenda proposal. Is that
Please.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And if the pandemic is gone and we can meet in our boardroom, then all the best as well. All right. I will go back to 6.8. We'll continue with the demographic data and background. We'll move it to Mr. Latka. Thank you.
Actually, it would be Assistant Superintendent Cardinal.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
Damn, sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right. All right, so as you see in the background report, every year the trustees request to review the division's demographic data that we collect, and we've been collecting this data for the past 4 years, and looking at the English language learners, how many we have in the division, how many students we have with inclusive needs, as well as how many Indigenous students we have in the division. So you can see a report from this year. These numbers haven't greatly changed in the last 4 years. The only numbers that are really that you should be aware of are the tier 3 students. And out of the tier 3, or sorry, excuse me, the students with inclusive needs, this year, the percentage of the total of inclusive needs students has risen to 17%, which is an increase of 3.5% in the last 3 years. So that is something to be of note. But this gives you a breakdown of demographic by school, the numbers and the percentages of their population.
All right. Thank you so much. Any question? And why we've been requesting this as a board, it aids in our advocacy when we do meet, because again, if you look at the inclusive need, that's a huge portfolio, and the resources that go into supporting those students, we need to be aware of. So when we are talking to our MLAs and advocating, we know why we are advocating for some of those needed resources. Like we heard this morning, we have in-house therapists, the support services team over there. It takes a long time to access some of these resources from within the communities. So then guess what? We are forced to try and build our own resource network to increase or to facilitate that some of those needs to our students while they are waiting as well to receive more of such support within the community. But in the short term, we have to be doing something for our students. So this is the premise for why we needed some of this information. Okay, any comments or discussion? Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you. I see no hands, unless I'm missing somebody from mine. Okay. Then we will move forward. Positive path forward and our GRACE initiative. So this is on me. Our positive path forward is coming to an end, and we need to meet as a board to look at where we go and what do we adjust and what do we change in our positive path forward plan, as well as our GRACE initiatives is been, because of the pandemic, we haven't really have much sources in that realm as well. So in discussion with Trustee Tagwood and Mr. Bouchard, we need to set a day or half a day to deal with this work. All right, so in that discussion, we're looking at December 7th, 9th, or the 10th. Trustee Tagwood, that's what we were thinking about, right?
Yes, that's correct. We were looking at either Tuesday the 7th, Thursday the 9th, or Friday the 10th to see what would be the easiest for all of us to get together.
To do that work.
To do that work.
Okay, so I see.
So do you want to just
One
start
second.
with the 7th and see?
Yeah, I see Trustee Miller has a hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Miller.
Thank you for recognizing me. I would prefer the Thursday or the Friday. However, in saying that, whatever day it turns out to be, can I request that it be later in the day as possible in recognition of those who have full-time jobs?
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So the 9th or the 10th, I see. Okay. Mr. Lena, what will be your preferred date?
Well, I could probably make either of those days work, but with it being evening, Thursday or Friday would be better for me. I'd only be able to do Tuesday morning.
Okay. Won't be too late in the evening, because we also I need to recognize Mr. Bouchard's time as well. And sometimes we have to balance that. So probably between noon and 1 will be the start time, so then that we carry the work into the evening to give some of us the opportunity to work and then have half the day to do the work. Okay, so can we all agree to say the 9th then, and then set the time at 1? Is that fair? Mr. Bouchard, is your, oh, okay, I see a hand up. Jolene, sorry.
That's okay. I just put it up. Just one request. If we do the 9th, that is also the Candlelight Remembrance Mass at St. Michael's. So can you confirm that that would be done by 7 p.m. then? I'm not sure what you're talking about going into the evening. So just because I did have plans to attend that Mass. But if it's the majority, then I'll obviously.
No. If we start at 1, we should be done by 5:36.
Okay.
Mr. Bouchard, what do you think?
That would work for me. Yeah. The 9th works.
Yeah.
I've got 1 to 5:30 as the tentative time. Is that, it should be sufficient.
Sufficient, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll pencil down the 9th, December 9th, starting at 1. Mr. Bouchard and I will talk about it and then set up. And this will be virtual, I'm assuming. We want to be in person.
So, Mr. Chair, if it's trustees and myself, we could meet in person. We'd be able to space out in the boardroom, but I'll leave that up to you guys.
Okay. The only thing I'm saying is probably Mr. Lerner, if we can make accommodation to have some of the materials at your disposal from home, just to save you that drive, if that would be fair. Okay, so we'll do this in person, 1 o'clock at the board office. Yeah, it's good to meet in person.
Can we have a Zoom option, Henry?
And it's in
Excuse
December.
me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, we can create that Zoom option, but I'm talking about the material and how to share some of those material. So, Mr. Bouchard, we'll talk about it. We'll create it. We'll meet in person, and we'll have a virtual option for Unity from afar.
Mr. Chair, if you start having 2 and 3 people come in virtually, I would suggest it's probably better to have it virtually. That'd be my suggestion. Like, it doesn't work well to have half and half because it doesn't work well in the boardroom in that respect. So I would maybe suggest you kind of maybe do one or the other, unless it's just one person who's not attending in person.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave it up to the team now. Give me a quick direction.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, could I just add that if we do it in person, that adds an extra 2 hours to mine and an extra 2 hours to Michael's. So that means like 12 to 6:30. That's why I would prefer to do it in Zoom, especially when we don't know what the weather and other things right now.
Okay. All right, folks, let's do it. Let's do Zoom. And yeah, if I have to join Mr. Bouchard at the office, then we'll be the 2 of us, and then we'll do it by Zoom, if that's okay. All right.
Can you just, Mr. Chair, why would the 2 of us be in person at central office?
Because you have all the materials there.
Yeah, but
you can project us everything then?
Yeah, we could share. I mean, Consultant Pasula gave us a report that we could share with all trustees. So. Okay. Again, it doesn't work well to have just a couple of people in person.
Okay. All right. So Zoom it is, folks. I was thinking about Christmas, meeting people. All right. Thank you. So December 9th at 1. Please God. Okay. there are no further questions, Trustee Tagwood, I see your hands up.
I was just going to say, we have a lot of information that was given us already by, on the board evaluation, and we should all go over everything ahead of time and to have things ready to be discussed at the meeting.
Okay. So I will ask Mr. Bouchard to reshare that. I'm not sure if all of our newer trustees do have those documents. So Mr. Bouchard, please, we will share about all of those information again. Trustee Miller, I see your hands up.
Thank you. So just to be clear, the meeting on December 9th is a review of the board evaluation and the board's path forward. That's what that meeting is about.
Yes, creating a new board path forward, and then look at our GRACE initiatives. So we intentionally put all of these so then that by the time we come back in January, we have all of this work done and then moving in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. There are no further questions. 6.10, good news stories. So considering the pandemic, oh, Trustee Tagwood, I see your hands up again.
Well, I have to share a good news story. That's where we're at, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Should end on a positive note. So I was just quite excited at our last school council to have 12 people there. How's that for a parent? That's so great.
Amazing.
And also we had 2 students. Yes. 2 grade 9 students to give student reports, and it was just really moving, and it was great. It was such a good meeting. So I was quite excited to see so many of the community, the parents there, and to be involved in the things they were talking about and things they could do even in this pandemic. So that was my good news story that I had to share.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how was your Education Sunday? How did that go?
Our Education Sunday in Lacombe went excellent. I was there Saturday night and Sunday, and we distributed, gave lots of information, and Maria also gave information. We introduced the staff from both our schools. I know they're not Star Catholic schools, but the other part of our parish, and the staff were there, and gave out lots of chocolates, so everybody was happy with the chocolates and information as far as Catholic education.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I see Trustee Berg. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say that after being elected, I got to do a tour of our high school. I'd always been familiar with the elementary, but not the high school. And I was just blown away. I cannot believe why a child would not want to go to school in this day and age. There's so many options. There was so much positivity there with students, staff. Like you feel like you're walking into your own home. You feel like you're going home. Like the love is unbelievable. So I'm so proud of our school. I just wanted to share that with everybody. And also the ASBA convention was very enlightening for me. Now I know when I look at stuff, I can put a face to somebody. I know it's kind of what they're talking about, right? I can kind of put it together. Very enlightening for a new trustee. Thank you very much for allowing me to attend. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And there's more to come to that. Like you said, right? It's that environment that you begin to relate and understand why trustees are trustees. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Do I see any hands up? Oh, Trustee Berg, and then what happened with your Education Sunday?
Sorry, I put my hand down, but yeah, my Education Sunday, it went very well. I handed out cards as well as Donna with some chocolate. Got to talk to lots of the parishioners. Unfortunately, we're down to like 70 per mass, so you don't get to see everyone, but it was enlightening, and I enjoyed talking to the parishioners that were there and handing out the the cards as well as the chocolate bars. The kids like chocolate bars, so so it was good.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other good news stories? Okay. Yeah, so for with us, Queen, we didn't do much, and this is the only year because of the pandemic that we haven't had our pancake breakfast and all of the activities that come with it. And again, our parish is just a little bit cautious as to the interaction. So to be fair honest, it's just me giving my 2-3 minutes talk. Then we ended it that way. But God willing, next year we'll look at it from a bigger picture. And then again, we send all the information online. We have our priest is very, very technical with his newsletter. So he packs a lot in there via links and send them out, which is very awesome to see. So that's our good news story. Okay, Trustee Sarwar.
Thank you. Yes, we had our Catholic Education Sunday, but I had to do it a week because I was out of town, do it a week early. Yeah. And gave our talk and passed out fresh baked scones from the local bakery, and the people really loved that. And as well, Father Arlen had everybody stand and recognize the staff. So it was good.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, even though the Saturdays, the weekend is set in the first weekend, and you can negotiate some of that with your priest depending what's going on in the parish, so that you can have a lot of turnout and plan very well. Okay, if there are no further stories, we will go to annual work plan. Okay, we've seen some of all of this plan. We are in November, going into December. We've talked about scheduling, Mr. Bouchard, sister board meetings. Okay, have we started some of those discussions, please?
We have, we're waiting to hear back still.
Okay, waiting to hear back. Okay, so that's a work plan for December, which will be a very short one. Annual insurance report and risk management. I'm very much sure, like Mr. Latka did mention, is going to bring us some information into the December month to bring us up to speed on some of that work. The only thing I can add, there's nothing more to add on over there, I believe. Okay. Board calendar.
Mr. Chair, there's a comment from,
sorry.
Trustee Sarwar.
Okay. Go ahead, Trustee Sarwar.
Maybe I jumped ahead. For December, it says in the board calendar, participate in school tours. If everybody's vaccinated, is that allowed or not?
So those could happen, just it's a little harder in COVID times to do that. And I think we had that discussion and we said we would defer it at this time until the new year.
Into the new year. Yeah. Okay. And then again, we will miss our December interaction with our staff at the board office, again, because of the COVID. If not in the past, this is the time that we come together and share a meal during the meetings to appreciate our front office staff and directors. But again, we'll postpone that. COVID will go away and we'll have a big reunion. Okay. So board calendar, we've seen it. Trustee expense claim. So as you've all been advised, please, it's easier if At the end of each month, we gather whatever we have in claim and then send it to Mr. Latka and his technicians to work on it for us. That's much appreciated. Keeps our books and everything clean and moving. It's better that way. So I see Trustee Lena have a question.
Yeah, sorry, I might have missed it. What is COSC dinner meeting?
Oh, Cox. Council of School Councils. That's where we meet with, yes, all of our school council chairs around the division.
For sure. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Okay. So I hope everyone is up to speed with their claim. If not, this is the time to start putting them together. And if you have any question, I'm sure if you reach out to myself or Mr. Latka, it could be quickly. And it's online, do it. Like he said, take a picture of the receipt, text it to him, and it's done. If you can download it, do that as well. So there are many ways to have this process moving for you. Thank you. If there are no further questions, then we'll go to the board action sheet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Alberta School Foundation Fund will draft and send a letter to the minister on behalf of the board chair. The Maskwacis Educational School Councils will follow up on the letter that we sent them regarding an appointed trustee. Alberta Health request for exemption will notify Alberta Health that the request for exemption is granted for the 21-22 school year and will notify school administration of such. Policy Committee will review Policy 21, have a discussion about that policy continuing. MLA meeting will schedule a meeting in the spring on a Thursday in March. Board Committee of the Whole, December 9th from 1 to 5:30. So we'll review the positive path forward, Grace. And something else, Mr. Chair, that needs to be discussed there that we had mentioned was just setting a time and location, format and location for the board retreat at that time as well. That should be quick. And we'll send trustees a copy of the board's self-evaluation that was done by the consultant in advance of that December 9th meeting.
Okay, do you want to include the divisional grace plan that we do have?
We don't have a divisional grace plan right now, but I can send some grace materials to trustees.
Okay, please. Thank you. Any questions? No, I see none. Okay. And correspondence, like I said, in that ASBA report, a lot has been sending out. I haven't been to the board office. I don't think Mrs. Brobe have opened any, prepared have opened any listing for us, or Charlie, do we have anything in the mail that needs to be looked at? No.
Mr. Chair, I don't review that. Often will be put in the mailbox by Lucy, so I honestly can't say.
Can't say, okay. Maybe I'll talk to Lucy, see if there is an SOL letter from the Premier sending us money. Okay, so all that being said, I would like to thank administration for all the good work on those reports. Despite the pandemic, I'm sure there's a lot of good work happening in our building, and parents can attest to some of that because it's not easy at this time dealing with especially children and even myself. You know, they are both been locked down and kids needs to be active. So this is a very stressful time that we are all in. Very much appreciated, and thank you for all the work. We will follow with our closing prayer. Mr. Latka, can you project that for the team, please? Okay. Okay. If you all may join me In the name of the Father, the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Grant me, O Lord my God, a mind to know you, a heart to seek you, wisdom to find you, conduct pleasing to you, faithful perseverance in waiting for you, and a hope of finally embracing you. Saint Thomas Aquinas, pray for us. In the name of the Father, the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you again, Mr. Laka. And we will call this meeting adjourned at 2